Hello Revolution golfers, Martin Hall here, coming from the magnificent club at Ibis, West Palm Beach. This DVD is on pitching. Pitching being anything really that's a high shot with not much roll on the golf ball, a lofted shot with not much roll on the golf ball. Where do you pitch from? Oh my goodness, it could be anything from 5 yards up to, if you're a really strong tall pro, it could be 120 yards. I'm going to start off in a moment or two with about a 60 yard or a mid-range one. But I want to tell you what's in this DVD, and I want to share with you that this is going to be, as best as I can, you and me spending time on this magnificent morning here together, just talking about your game pitching, things I've learnt over the years from great players that are going to help you pitch it better. And well, we all know this really, don't we? If you pitch better, you score better. And I will tell you this, probably 75% of everything you need in your full swing, you learn properly in about a 65-yard pitch shot. The alignments you need, you get them from a 65-yard pitch shot. So I'm going to be talking in this DVD about the basic technique of pitching, a little bit of science stuff, what the best pitchers do. We're going to be talking about hitting out of the rough. How do you do that and make the ball stop? Of course, we're going to be talking about how to spin it. Everybody wants to know how to do that. We're going to be talking about uphill lies, downhill lies, ball above your feet, ball below your feet, things that you are going to have to deal with. And then I'm going to finish this DVD with my two best tips that you can take to the range. Two tips from Hall of Famers. In fact, it's Tom Kite and Sir Nick Faldo. Their thoughts on pitching. And then two games, two transfer skills that you can take from the range to the golf course for you to pitch lower. So let's get started on this pitching special. Okay, pitching. Let's talk about the swing. No. Let's talk about equipment first of all. You will never be any better than your equipment. Look, people spend a lot of money trying to get a driver fitted. I get it, I like it. You know, we want the ball to go a bit farther. And they use any old wedge or spade at the bottom end of the set. Picking your wedges to fit your style, the style of course you play on, and what we call gapping is vital. I want to show you my wedges. I proudly use the Cleveland RTX3. I think it's the best wedge on the market. But more important than that, I might tell you, is what I would call the gapping of the wedges. The lofts on the wedges, we need equal gapping. What is gapping? It's the gap difference, the angle of the face difference between, in my case, 3 wedges. Some people carry 4, but most of us carry 3. Now, I'm going to turn these wedges upside down, and my able cameraman is going to show you that I've actually got on the bottom of these clubs, it says 48, 54, 58. That's what it says. They're actually not. I've had them changed a little bit. This one is 49. This one is 54. And this one is 59. So I've actually got 5 degrees of loft difference between my 3 wedges. That's very important that the gap in the loft matches. You don't want one that's 50 and another one that's 52 and the next one is 60 degrees. You will be caught out. You'll have blind spots in your distance. So the first thing in choosing equipment, you need to have an appropriate amount of difference in the loft between your 2, your 3 or your 4 wedges. Very, very important. That won't leave you with any blind spots from 100 to 90 to 80 to 70. So even before we get into technique, we've got to talk about having the right equipment. Second thing, we've got to talk about bounce. Bounce on the club. Let me show you bounce. My sand wedge, my middle wedge here is the most one bounce. I've got 11 degrees of bounce on this. If I hold the club up to the camera and the shaft vertical, you can see that the leading edge comes off the ground by a good amount. That would be 11 degrees of bounce. Why do we need bounce? Well, very, very helpful in the sand to make sure the club doesn't dig, but sometimes helpful off the ground as well to make sure the club doesn't dig too much or suit your style of play. So I've actually got on my wedges, I have 8 degrees of bounce on my 49 degree. I have 11 degrees of bounce on my 54 degree, and I have 9 degrees of bounce on my 59 degree. and therefore I've got reasonable bounce differences between the three wedges. The most bounce is on my middle wedge because that's my sand wedge. Now, so we've got loft, we've got bounce. Who should use clubs with a lot of bounce? Well, two things. If you need a lot of bounce, if you are someone who takes deep divots, as great a player as he is, I think of someone like Sergio Garcia. He would be someone who takes fairly deep divots. Nothing wrong with that. It can win you a green jacket at Augusta, obviously. But if you take deep divots, you probably want clubs with plenty of bounce. If you're a digger, and there's nothing wrong with that if you hit the ball properly, but if you're a digger, you want clubs with a lot of bounce. If you are a picker, I think, oh, I don't know, maybe an Adam Scott, someone like that. They would be very shallow into the ball, so they would not want a lot of bounce. So choose how much bounce you have based on, do you dig or are you shallow? There is another factor as well. Where do you play your golf? If you play your golf, oh, I don't know, let's say the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, somewhere like that, where it rains a lot, the fairways get very soft. Yes, you're on the short grass, but it's soft, it's spongy, it's mushy. You probably want a lot of bounce to stop the club digging. If you play in Texas where the ground is firm, like a brick, you would not want a lot of bounce. You want a club with not much bounce. These are all important considerations before we even get to the swinging of the golf club. And then there's one other thing that is so neglected with wedges, so very neglected. So we've got the loft differences between the three wedges. Hopefully there's a bit of information there for you to make an educated decision about either your style of play or the turf that you play off, should you have a lot of bounce or not. But there's one other factor that people don't look at, and that is the lie angle of your wedges. The lie angle with your wedges is the most important lie angle in the game. It's way more important than the lie angle with your driver, or your 3-wood, or your 5-iron. And let me show you lie angle and why it's so important. I'll take my middle wedge. If I put a magnet on the club here, when the face is square to the ground and the lie angle is correct, I think my down the line camera can see that magnet is pointing at the hole. What we would call loft normal or face normal, or the effective loft, is pointing at the hole. I'm going to exaggerate a little bit, but if I had a club that was too upright, and as such the toe of the club was too much off the ground as I set up, the leading edge of that club is still pointing at the target. But I'm sure you can see the loft, the face normal, is pointing to the left. So if you're using clubs that are too upright for you, you will tend to hit the ball to the left. If you are using clubs that are a bit too flat for you, then the lie angle will have the loft point to the right. So get on a lie board, test your lie dynamically, a bit of tape on the ground, see where you're hitting when you hit off a lie board, and that will help you make an intelligent decision on equipment. So I think it's the most important thing before we get into the swing. You've got to have the right differences in the lofts. You've got to choose the right bounce for the style of play you have and the conditions you play. And you've absolutely got to have the right lie angle for your wedges. Now, having said all that, you're a Revolution golfer. I know you'll take care of that in time to come. So let's get into how to stand, how to aim, and how to swing for better wedge play.